All right, folks. It is Dr. Remy LeBeau, and I'm coming at you once again from the X-Lair to once again provide you my deep and insightful thoughts into the latest episode of WandaVision. We had WandaVision episode 8 dropped tonight on Disney Plus, and I have just finished watching it twice. I watched it back to back. I watched it, and then I watched it again right when it was done because I wanted to make sure that everything I had just seen, And guess what? I did. I did actually just see what I just saw. A lot of really interesting things were revealed in this episode. The Marvel movie has begun, right? The official Marvel movie has begun. The movie that would have been like in the theaters if this was like a Marvel movie, like this was that Marvel movie. But everything else that came before is fucking awesome and I love it. But clearly, like this and the next episode, however long that may be, will constitute a Marvel movie because this was a fucking Marvel movie. Straight up a Marvel movie. I was like, yeah, I would have paid $20 for this. As I was watching, I was like, yeah. I could have seen myself sitting in a big ass theater in a seat watching this because this was really great, guys. This is like really, 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 really great. And what makes it even better is that this isn't just the Marvel movie. There's like, okay, this was episode 8, so episodes 1 through 7, let's say roughly half an hour each. That's about what, 3.5 hours. So you have 3.5 hours to get to this, and then we have another episode to come, and I'm going to assume, and it has to be the case, that the final episode is going to be super long, right? Like it's going to have like an extra long, I'm going to assume a climax, and then like a denouement, like kind of like a, where does this leave us within the Marvel universe, sort of, kind of setting things up for future chapters of this story, which, I mean, presumably, this will continue in Spider-Man No Way Home, I think is the title for the third one that they just announced. And then Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But, there is a Falcon and Winter Soldier. There is the Loki series. There are other things. So it's like, will we see reverberations of this throughout those things? I don't know. All right, let's get into the fucking episode because this was a fucking episode, folks. Now, first of all, Pietro. Agatha, Agatha says, Agatha calls Pietro faux Pietro, implying that he's not real. Okay. She mentioned something about she couldn't use a necromancy spell because that would have been impossible because his body was like elsewhere, somewhere else, all shot up, she said. And so she said it was possession. Wanda asked her if she was responsible for Pietro, and Agatha said, no, that was just my eyes and ears. It was possession. Basically, she had possessed Pietro, and, kind of used him as sort of a spy. But she's not responsible for him. So it's got to be fucking Pietro from an alternate timeline. Because, so at the end of the episode, we're told, Agatha says that she believes that Wanda is using a chaos magic and she is the Scarlet Witch. And we finally get the name of the Scarlet Witch given to Wanda Maximoff, which is very fucking cool, It's very fucking cool. And so maybe from Agatha's perspective, like Agatha, maybe from Agatha's perspective, like she doesn't understand that what appears to be spontaneous creation, which is what she said Wanda can do, is actually extraction from another dimension, right? I mean, the fact that this is going to go into like Spider-Man 3 and then that's going to go into Doctor Strange 2, the Multiverse of Madness, is in the title. I mean, there's a multiversal element here. And like, maybe Agatha doesn't truly understand what Wanda is, and maybe Doctor Strange does show up in the final episode and kind of explain that. So anyway, I wanted to first point out that fucking Pietro is still in play to be the Pietro from the X-verse, implying that an alternate dimension where mutants exist could somehow be woven into this reality. And Agatha said that again. She said that the Scarlet Witch is able to spontaneously create, which could simply be a way of understanding sort of extraction from an alternate dimension. Because remember, in the Marvel universe, magic, like was said in the original Thor, like magic is like science you don't understand yet, yes, right. It's science you don't understand yet, right? So there's always sort of like this two-sided coin sort of nature to like these supernatural forces within the Marvel universe, right? Like they appear to be magic, but there is sort of a scientific basis for the way they work. And so although a witch, and obviously we've established Agatha is a legit witch, a witch may view what Wanda is able to do as a spontaneous creation, but it's actually extraction. Therefore, Pietro is from the X-Men universe, which means all that is still in play, which means Agatha was just controlling him or using him for her eyes and ears. Oh, no, she wasn't controlling him. She was using him for her eyes and ears. And so he had to be brought there from an alternate dimension by Wanda. And if you remember in that episode where he showed up, which I believe was episode 4. Yes, it was episode 4 at the very end. Like, that's the episode where Agatha was like, because the kids were like, you can bring people back to life, can't you? And then Agatha was like, you can do that? So that reaction that she gave Wanda in that episode was legit. So let's get into this, I always have to talk about the Pietro stuff, because that's a direct link to X-Men, and like, I want to talk about X-Men in relation to the MCU, you know, like I fucking want to so fucking bad, and like we're this fucking close, and I can fucking taste that shit. It tastes so fucking good. God damn, that shit tastes good. And then I don't know what. Oh, come on, before I get into it, fucking next episode. My God, what are we gonna see in the next episode? Like, what is gonna happen? You know, it's gonna be fucking epic. I mean, we're talking about the latter half of a fucking Marvel film. Like, the latter half of a Marvel film is usually fucking, at least really great spectacle. It's not like mind-blowing fucking whatever the fuck. But here we're dealing with magic and like science and like, and the sort of the intermingling of the two-sided coin. And that can always lead to really interesting things. They're going to do it right. So I have no doubt that the next episode is going to be like, you know, and I am very much excited for that and here for it 100%. Fucking the rest of this episode though. Okay, so I watched it twice. Like, I think I have a decent grasp on it. We start off in Salem, right? 17th century. It seems as though Agatha has been caught to be a fucking witch, but she is actually being tried or punished by other witches because I guess she is evil or something. But then it's revealed that either intentionally or not, she sucks the magic out and the life force of these other witches. So in that commercial a couple episodes back where it was like, I feed on your magic, I mean, that clearly is a link to what Agatha can do, right? Like, she feeds on magic. So then we get into the episode and we see Agatha. She's finally just being, it's all the cards are on the table, right? Like, we can see exactly what Agatha's part in all of this is. And ultimately, it's revealed that Agatha is not responsible for everything. She's responsible for some trickery, but it's ultimately Wanda. Like, Wanda created this world, and I always figured that would be the case. But I thought that Agatha would have manipulated her into doing so. But clearly what happened was that Wanda created the hex, and then Agatha caught wind of it and came to sort of sniff out the magic. Like, because she wants to feed on your magic, right? So, like, obviously, she must always be sort of trying to sense magic, right? And then she senses this awesome magic, and the whole thing of, like, this whole exploratory thing through Wanda's like traumas and like these key events in her life, which clearly were foreshadowed by the commercials that were shown in the episodes of the show early on in this series, in this miniseries, was for Agatha to figure out how is she doing all this magic. Like, she kept emphasizing, like, you know, it takes a long time to learn like very simple things and to master those things, and you're just like automatically doing them. Like, she needed to know why, and that's what this whole thing was about. And I thought it was so fucking fantastic. At first I was just like, where are we going with this? And then when I saw where we were going with it, I was like, what? I love how they like, even in our expectations of the quality we're gonna see, like, they play with our expectations. Like, they're all about fucking with our expectations, right? So even in the quality of what we're about to see, because they know exactly what they're doing. And so they knew that you have all these different sort of formats of how you're telling the story, and these different sort of sitcom, but also kind of / Marvel-esque sort of ways. And that can be sort of, you know, off-putting. And so they knew that ultimately, it was all going to come together, and your expectations would be throttled and then maybe even satisfied at the same time. And so they even apply that to the quality of a show. Like, they apply that with the sort of the first few moments where you're kind of like, you know, you're expecting kind of like one thing, and then it's kind of taking you down a different direction. It's taking its time, and you're just kind of like, is this the right pace for this particular segment? Are we at the right point where this should be kind of taking its time as it is? And then it finally becomes clear. Like, of course, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing, and it's doing it brilliantly, and it feels fucking awesome that it's doing it, and the fact that it's doing it, and in the way that it's doing it, it's fucking fantastic. So I really love just the way, just like sort of like the motivation and the sort of path of what this show was, what this episode was supposed to do, and the way that it did it, and the way that it took us down that path. And basically, I mean, either a planned retcon or a retcon, just a straight up fucking retcon of Wanda's origin, right? Because we knew about the bomb, the Stark bomb in her apartment, right, that killed her parents. But here, like, it's revealed that Agatha Agatha reveals, or she identifies, that it was actually Wanda that stopped the bomb from ultimately killing her and Pietro. And she used magic that she already had, right? That's something we did not know. We thought she got her power from the Infinity Stone. So then we go forward to when she was with Hydra, right? And she was a volunteer, but clearly she was not meant to be a special volunteer. She was just a volunteer. And as a volunteer, after like so many people had died trying to interact with the Mind Stone on Loki's scepter, which, by the way, Loki's scepter, fuck yeah. Unlike them, though, she did not die. And the minute she walked into the room and approached it, obviously there was a moment where the video did not pick up what happened, but it could imply that there was sort of like a pocket dimension that she entered into, maybe, where she interacted with sort of the living Mind Stone, or the Mind Stone connected to the multiverse in some way, connected Wanda to like some like prime version of the Scarlet Witch, because we saw in the silhouette, not some fucking shitty Halloween costume version of the Scarlet Witch, but we saw fucking this silhouette of this beautiful sort of goddess type version of the Scarlet Witch, which harkens to, you know, the comics, like a legit version of what was in the comic books, right? With that costume, but like in a way that was reverent, but by leaving it in silhouette, it didn't make it cheesy. It just kind of made it this sort of like otherworldly goddess-like avatar of maybe this sort of universal power Because I personally never read the Avengers to the extent that I know about all this stuff, but I did hear this last week about this Nexus being business, and clearly that's going to come into play because that was one of the commercials, and so that would imply that she, I think they said that means that she exists in every dimension. I don't know. I don't really understand it. And if it is going to be pivotal or important in some critically defining way, then we should get an explanation for it next week. So I'm not even going to speculate on it. I'm just going to kind of let it play out next week. But like the interesting thing about that interaction with the Mind Stone as well was that the interaction led to her power sort of what Agatha said being amplified. But maybe it was more about her getting in sync with her multi-dimensional self, like this sort of Nexus being sort of thing, like getting that power aligned, where it allowed her true power to sort of completely manifest. But anyway, and by the way, we had a couple of cool things in those two first flashbacks where you get an understanding of where the sitcom sort of ideas come from. That sort of manifested reality that was based on very specific sitcoms for very specific reasons that have a lot of emotional weight to them in relation to, Wanda's trauma and what makes Wanda who Wanda is. And I thought that was really fucking beautiful. It just tied everything together so fucking nicely, making everything so significant. It's not like just arbitrary. We're arbitrarily choosing sitcoms. No, it's like these sitcoms, they had special connections to important moments in Wanda's life that helped to shape her. And then we had that moment with Vision, right? And we had the moment where like Vision kind of snapped her out of her trauma. And I think that's the moment where she first started to fall in love with him. Like where she gave him a different perspective on what grief was. That it was more of sort of an endurance of love, like because you love the person, therefore grief exists, and therefore it is the endurance of love, and therefore, it's something. If you look at it from that perspective, it's something kind of beautiful as well, right? And that clicked for her, and that kind of took her out of her trauma because she told him that she was like being hit with like these waves, like she kept getting knocked down as she tried to get up, and that was the moment where she was able to get up, and it was Vision that helped her, and it was a really great moment to see because we never saw that moment. Like we assumed that moment existed, but we never actually saw it, and then we saw it, and it was nice to see it. It was nice to see that. It was nice to see the interaction with the Mind Stone, and also with the interaction with the Mind Stone, it's possible the Mind Stone is like part of some sort of living energy too. Or like each Infinity Stone has like a living component to it, like a sentient component to it. But I mean, we'll see about that at some point, I would assume, maybe, potentially, or maybe not. Yeah, and then we went to Sword, and then we got the real story on what happened when Wanda went there. Like, it was implied that she had gone there aggressively, breaking doors open with magic and taking the body of Vision. That was implied by what we saw, but this episode allowed us to see, like, she wasn't super mad. She was just there, and she was just requesting to see the body at first, and she opened the doors because she was like, I got it, like, out of convenience. And another really cool little thing that we saw in that moment was, like, people were in awe of her. Like, we heard Darcy talk about her interaction with Thanos, so people know about what happened, versus Thanos, and like the fight and how they finally beat him, obviously, because everybody's been the whole world's fucking traumatized, right? And so everybody knows about her, and like there's like a fear, but there's also a reverence, right? Because like she's one of the people that helped to fucking stop this fucking madman. Like he was about to destroy the entire universe and recreate it from scratch, based on his final observations in Endgame. And so, and which is something everybody must know as well, right? So, because he told that to I think Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, right? So everybody's got to know that. And so, like, there's like this reverence for her because, like, she's partly responsible for saving all of them. But it's also terrifying understanding her power and, like, you can't fuck with this bitch, basically. So she makes her way in. She meets Hayward, is his name, I think. A lot of people were speculating that he was a villain. I never thought he was. And I like the way it's been fleshed out is basically like he's been traumatized, just like everybody else. And, like, he wanted to make sure that threats are dismantled, and that's why he was dismantling Vision. It appeared to an extent, and like, and the interaction with Wanda was great because it wasn't about like her aggressively taking the body. It was more about like, hey, dude, I just want to bury my boyfriend. Like, I just want to bury the man I love who's dead, you know. And then he's the one that implants the idea of bringing him back to life. And then she leaves the body and just goes. And then that's when she is led to that fucking plot of land, which apparently Vision had purchased for them and would become their home in the future. I mean, how fucking perfect is that, you know? It's just so fucking touching, you know? It's just like, it's so beautiful, you know? It's like, that's the spot that Vision envisioned their life together. And she was like, and that's when, and like everything that happened in her life, without having Vision to pull her back, like it all sort of culminated with her sort of, like her power kind of automatically creating this world in which Vision is back to life. She created Vision, and then she's like changed the entire town into what we've been seeing all these episodes. I just thought that was so lovely. And then those first moments when she's finally with Vision and she sort of accepts it. She accepts what is going on and she like becomes black and white, and then she just kind of embraces the moment. I mean, I just thought that was so fucking beautiful. God damn, that was beautiful. Because like you hear like the minute she steps into the frame in black and white, having been in color, which looked fucking cool. And by the way, when Agatha is kind of like pulling back on that moment and like all of a sudden we see the set and it's in color, and then you see like the studio audience and the 3-camera setup, I thought that was so fucking dope. And then we're outside again. Wanda's able to leave. She hears her kids, and then she leaves the house, and then we see Agatha in her true form looking fucking badass, right? Like the badass MCU Agatha Harkness has fucking emerged, right? Like the true villainess that the season has been building up. Like that's why I always had a problem with people like mentioning Nightmare and Mephisto, because it's like, so we're just gonna allow yet another situation where you have another male behind everything. Like, can we please just have a fucking dope ass woman? Like, just be like the badass fucking power pig, you know? Like, I mean, we had in Thor, we had what's her name? Thor's sister. Fuck, I can't fucking think of her name. But we had her, and she was amazing, and I fucking loved her. But I mean, this is a different sort of villainous, you know. This is like an Earthbound, like she's bound to Earth history. Like, it's not the same sort of as Guardian Legends sort of thing. This is like a threat from within, not from without. And so, I don't know. I think it's kind of cool because obviously we saw magic develop in Doctor Strange. We saw sorcerers, and we understood that there is magic in the world, and there are magicians and sorcerers, and now witches or sorceresses. I'm sure it's all the same thing to some extent. So it's cool to finally see like this fucking badass witch emerge. You know, she's like, she wants to feed on your magic, you know, and like she's got the kids in these like magic harnesses. Maybe she's gonna feed on them, maybe she's not. We didn't see Vision, we didn't see Darcy, we didn't see Quicksilver, and we did not see Monica. So this is gonna be a fucking showdown next episode. I have to assume at some point Vision's gonna wake up Pietro, and then that's gonna lead us to some answers about where he's from. And then the question is like, how is this gonna finish? You know, I don't even want to fucking speculate, but I have to believe that it's gonna lead to some sort of like what were those things called? in Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four and Avengers, I think, that led to Secret Wars. It was the when the realities would crash into each other and sort of unite, sort of, not really, but no, they would die. But I think ultimately elements of all of them would kind of, like a. If she, okay, so again, Agatha believes that Wanda can create spontaneously. It appears that Agatha is able to siphon her magic, Wanda's magic. She thinks she needs to stop Wanda. So maybe she tries to take all the magic, and maybe that is what causes like all the realities to warp out of control or something. Because she takes Wanda's magic, or like a good chunk of it, and she can't take it or some shit. And maybe that punctures like holes in reality or some shit. Perhaps, I don't know. I mean, it's gonna be fucking nuts. But what I do know is that we are in the middle of a full blown fucking Marvel fucking just a wonderful film. And I'm so happy for this. I'm so happy for Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'm looking forward to Black Widow. I'm looking forward to Loki. I'm looking forward to Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm looking forward to whatever's going to come next year. You know, I'm looking forward to all. Eternals. Shang-Chi, the Legend of the Ten Rings, I believe. Shang-Chi. I think we'll finally learn about the Mandarin. Maybe finally meet the actual Mandarin, perhaps. Kevin Feige just said something about there being a big fan base for the Netflix. He didn't mention Iron Fist, but he did mention Daredevil, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, which is very exciting because I like all three of those characters. So I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, what that could ultimately mean in terms of, you know, if these characters are going to be brought into the universe and in what manner. And how that's ultimately going to play out in some way that's going to be as fucking awesome as we expect it to be. I'm just really fucking excited. And I'm sure all of you are excited. And we have one more episode of WandaVision to go. And it's going to be mind-blowing. I think I'm going to pull a whole like viewing of it next week. And then kind of lead that into midnight so that I can watch the final episode. I think it's going to be very satisfying. And I look forward to... dropping my thoughts on it, you know, dropping some thoughts on it. Anyway, as always, it's a pleasure to talk to you guys. I hope everybody is doing well out there in this wild world that we're living in. And, you know, just try to keep your head up and do your best every day. And that's all we can do. As always, I want to remind you that if you haven't already, you better put an X in that box because ain't nobody checking me. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.